One of the biggest questions I get is, do I need to know how to code, or do I need to have any kind of AI experience to be able to build an AI business and make money in the space? And today I'm so excited to be sharing Nate Herk's journey, where he's gone from zero and having no AI or coding experience to making $300,000 a month with AI automation. And he's going to be revealing his entire blueprint today. We're going to be breaking down his journey from a complete outsider to an AI automation expert, how he learned the key foundations and AI skills that most people skip, how he's built massive authority through content and one of the biggest AI automation channels in the space and generates hundreds of leads, and how he's gone from running it all himself to doing it with a team. So you're going to see the exact transition from the learning phase to the earning phase, the systems he built to avoid the common pitfalls that kill most AI agencies, and also his framework for moving from a freelancer to an agency owner to an educator. So this is going to be a real-time breakdown of someone who figured out what actually works and has built a $250,000 monthly business in just under 2 years.
Hey guys, my name's Nate. I started my YouTube channel in September and now it's just reached over 300,000 subscribers. I run a pretty big Skool community, making over $200,000 a month. And with my agency, True Horizon, we're also reaching around $100,000 a month. So excited to share you guys how I got from graduating college to where I am now.
Sick. Okay, let's jump into it.
All right. So this first part I'm going to start talking about is, like I said, kind of my journey from when I graduated to how I was able to quit my full-time job. So in the summer of 2023, I was working an internship, and this was before heading into my senior year of college. And I was in a business intelligence role, which the reason I'm bringing this up is because I didn't have technical experience as far as, like coding or DevOps, but I did have a full internship of automation. So I got really familiar with a no-code tool called Alteryx, and that's where I learned a lot of the core fundamentals of automation, which is stuff like logic, data processing, ETL, just analytics in general, which is a really, really strong foundation to start from when you want to get into automation. So my key takeaway here was just being able to go from massive data to a clear result, and breaking things down step by step is really how you make things more clear. So then phase two, which I would call when I really started to dive into AI automation, was the next summer when I graduated college, went to the University of Iowa, double majored in marketing and business analytics. So once again, no coding background, but I had some transferable skills in BI. Like I said, workflow logic, variables, stuff like that. And this is when I remember very clearly, I was doing some stuff at work and I thought to myself, I just wish that I could plug this automation into ChatGPT and have it just send me back an answer. And that's actually when I realized that that does exist, and that is essentially AI automation. And that's when I, really started to dive into Liam's channel and see all that cool stuff he was doing. So I dove into Make, dove into end-to-end, ultimately figured that I thought end-to-end was a bit cooler at the time, to be honest. So I pretty much just dove into it all in. So this is when I kind of started to hit my first roadblock though, because coming from an environment of doing internal automations, you never really use APIs because you don't have to hit anything else. And especially my job was in the finance industry, we really couldn't. So I remember looking at API documentation, seeing the word header authentication, and I was like, what am I looking at? And it really sucked. And I was very overwhelmed, but just kind of had to push through it. And I had my first light bulb moment when I set up my first API call and built my first agent. And it was a really cool, sort of moment for me to get over that curve of being overwhelmed. And it was like, the smoke had cleared up, and now I was ready to sort of start building more meaningful automations.
Yeah, I think given just how much no-code automation platform there is out there today, the most important keystone to understanding that and getting access to it is understanding APIs. And I remember I had the exact same moment for you when I first started teaching myself Python basics and starting to move some data around over the internet and between applications. And it was the same thing. I couldn't figure out what the hell this header and these different authentication content types. And if you guys can just get through that understanding, there's so many great resources out there. And I honestly recommend to people that they should jump into something like Postman and trying to do a little workshop. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube as well of doing actual API calls within Postman and having to say, hey, take this API and make this API call to it. There's some great YouTube videos on doing that. But if you can get familiar with Postman and making a bunch of different API calls through that, it's a great foundation for anything moving into the AI automation space.
Yeah, 100%. That's where the true power comes in is APIs. And I remember, Liam, very specifically watching one of your videos where you did an analogy with ordering a pizza online and putting in your credit card information and all that. And I remember that was a big light bulb moment for me as well.
Yeah, there's a bunch of great ones. I also the restaurant analogy is a great one as well.
Yeah,
just put that in a video recently. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are struggling with that, understanding the how applications send data between each other, APIs. I did a really, probably my best breakdown to date in my AI web apps course. So I'll link that down below or something. You guys can check that out. But if you're a complete beginner and you're wanting to try and understand the stuff, then that's a really great place to start.
100%. I think that's the biggest hurdle. And then you get there. And then now we're into phase 4, which is another big light bulb moment for me here, which was when I started to understand the value of personal branding. And I 100% owe that to Liam's accelerator. I remember I took the leap at the end of August. I started, really getting into the idea of building systems to achieve your goals, not just having goals, but building systems. And from there, Liam talked a lot about personal branding and all this kind of stuff. And I basically just made myself a promise that I would start posting videos on YouTube. And I remember like looking back at my intro post in the accelerator where I said, hey, in 6 months, I want to have like a YouTube channel where I have videos on there I'm proud of. And yeah, I remember I started journaling stuff too, because at this point I was working full time. I was knowing that I wanted to get out of this sort of corporate lifestyle. And while I was at work, I remember playing your videos in the background on my headset and listening to other entrepreneurs speak. And I just decided I was going to start journaling, because I remember you did one where it was kind of like your video diary of your successes and your failures. And that was really inspiring to me. So just kind of took the leap there.
So, and you've got posting on YouTube and LinkedIn. You did both at once. I usually recommend just to do one and start off with it. Did you find like you ended up once one started taking off, you skewed all your efforts towards that and you sort of left the other one, which I assume is what happened with YouTube?
Yeah. And I pretty much figured that, if I could make a YouTube video, which is long form, probably the most effort goes into it. If it's super low effort to just purpose it on other platforms, then why not, really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got a daily system, work, home, build, record, post. So locking in that entrepreneurial skill set. There's so much that you gradually build up as an entrepreneur. There's the knowing the thing, in your case, knowing the AI automation skill set, right? Knowing how to do the value creation. But there's so many sort of soft skills around it, such as like your mindset, your discipline, your routine. And I find that is more of like picked up as you go. And so that's why people will sometimes take 6, 12 months or more. I mean, it took me 14 months to make my first dollar in profit from my first online business. And it's just that gradual accumulation of the soft skills and the little things that add up to making entrepreneurial success.
It really helped that I just got so obsessed with it. And I think that's something that entrepreneurs need, is they need just that genuine obsession and passion. The whole journey
that's the secret sauce, bro. That is the secret sauce. It's like, honestly, I was the same when I was first starting my channel. It was just obsession. Like I was so excited to wake up. This did not feel like work.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the secret sauce that you can't, like, I can't give that to someone. And I always tell people, if you're not obsessed with, if it's not something that you're really, really interested in, try building a voice agent, try building some more basic automation things, try building doing the vibe coding thing. Like test out different things until you find something that fires you up and you're thinking about it when you go to sleep. And if I'm still thinking about maybe a video that I want to make or something that I want to build or a project I was working on, then I know I'm in the right mode. But so many people are trying to force themselves into AI or any kind of business vehicle without having that cheat code, which is basically the infinite energy source that allows you to work when other people think it's work and you feel like it's play. So yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, no, very well said there. It is like just infinite energy. So
you got to find it. You got to find the thing.
And then, phase 5 is when I finally had the courage to quit my job. And the only reason I had the courage to do this is because through my YouTube channel, which at the time was less than 500 subscribers, it's amazing. The algorithms nowadays will connect you with exactly who you're trying to speak to. So you can get 10, 20, 100 views on a video, but people will reach out to you. People will be interested in what you're saying because it's speaking right to them. So I was able to get a few inbound leads a week with a very, very small channel. And I knew that if I doubled down, or honestly like tripled down, I just had this gut feeling there's no way I can fail based on what I'm seeing right now.
And would you give any tips to people who are in that early stage with content, particularly on YouTube, and are struggling to find the sort of the spark that kicks things off?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I could talk about this a long time, but it boils down to 2 words in my mind.
So many layers to it. It's just like
so much
endless layers of strategy on it.
Absolutely. And like I said, the 2 words that come to my mind the most is authenticity and consistency. Because the truth is, like, your first 10 may not pick up. And all that's doing is you're just giving YouTube more data, or you're giving the platform more data. And like I said, I think that nowadays the algorithms are so much more advanced that you can't really be thinking, I'm going to optimize here for virality. What you're optimizing for is to get put in front of the right people. And I think if you're consistent and you're authentic about it, there's just no way that that doesn't happen eventually. I think that platforms are also kind of favoring small creators right now. It seems like I'm always seeing videos on my
all
feed
the
that are
time,
100 views,
all the
200
time.
views.
And my home feed is these like 200 view videos. I was like, sometimes it is a banger, and I click on it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So it's a completely different time.
100%. And I think a lot of people's roadblock or barrier to entry is they feel like they're not qualified enough to talk about what they want to talk about. And I don't think that's a blocker at all.
I always say it's a knowledge gap. As long as you have some sort of some overlap of knowledge greater than the people that you're trying to help. And if you can build an automation, if you've watched some of your videos, some of my videos and the courses that I've put out, then you absolutely have some sort of knowledge gap over other people. It's just, can you, hop on the back of some news? And then I was saying to someone this morning that I was coaching actually last night, if you can take something newsworthy and that's kind of seemingly consumer, and then just add a little, maybe pull that into an automation. I did this with GPTs heavily. How can I take GPTs and put it onto a website? That was like, I had a legendary run there of videos because I started taking this thing and I just added a bit of like my skill set, which most people can very easily acquire. And you start to make this kind of one-of-one content that only exists on your channel. So the qualification and kind of imposter syndrome is real, and you're only really going to get to being knowledgeable. And it's such a great flywheel when you have to learn something and share about it on YouTube, learn something and share about it. That actually is what builds the expertise. That's what builds the confidence in your skills as well. So you kind of just got to start.
Yep. 100%. That'll be any person who gets luck. Any person who gets lucky with a video, just being consistent will beat that 9 times out of 10. So
yeah. And the guy who
overall takeaway
gets lucky is the guy who was also consistent a lot of the time. Like you put out 20 videos and it's like the 21st one that is the lucky one. But it's really, you've been like refining your craft the whole time, refining your idea selection and refining how well you edit your videos and stuff like that. So it's an iterative process for sure.
And that leads really, really well into this final wrap up here. Just repetition. Repetition is so important. And, I guess the question, really was, how did I go from non-technical to technical? And the only answer is that I just did a ton. I built a ton of stuff. And the core takeaways for me were not being afraid of JSON. It looks intimidating at first, but it is so simple when you really break it down. It's just a key value pair. JSON is so important to understand. And another thing though,
it's essential.
AI models are also very good at JSON now. So they can help you break it down, help you explain it, help you fix your JSON body request to an API, whatever it is. The second thing for me was, specifically with end-to-end, but once I built, 10, 20 automations, I realized that all of these automations are built on the same 10 core nodes. And so I just got really good at those core nodes. And I realized I can build almost anything because I know these so well. And that exact same logic applies to errors in my mind. I think a lot of people see an error message, they get a little overwhelmed, they don't know what to do. But if you just sit there and read it, it almost tells you exactly what's wrong. And if you're able to fix that yourself, it's just pattern recognition. Now, when I'm building a workflow, I think people have this misconception that I never see errors, but I see errors, every time I build a workflow, multiple errors. But because I've seen those errors so many times, I know exactly where to go or exactly what to look for. And it's just muscle memory at this point.
The bare minimum of technical skills that you need is being able to read and understand JSON, and then also the APIs. I think I've seen other examples of this, like people just brute forcing their way from non-technical to technical. And it's not like you have to take this big roundabout way to learn how to code. You kind of pick up a lot of developer skills along the way. And the point for all of you is that he's just put in probably a shit ton more work than anyone else who's been trying to make the same transition, coupled with being very good on the content side, which is often I find there is quite innate aspects to content, like if you like writing or if you like structuring ideas and things like this. But either way, you can brute force your way through either of those. People just often aren't willing to do the reps.
So this next section is going to be talking about how I was able to build my education product, which is my Skool community. It's a low ticket monthly subscription type of offer, and have grown that from 0 in November all the way to now 2.4 thousand members, making almost $200,000 a month. So one of my first takeaways was structure, and structure is better than volume. Because when I first kind of made it, my mindset was I'm just going to chuck as much material in here, thinking that it would just be more valuable if there was just a ton. And everything was really scattered and overwhelming, I assume, from a new member standpoint. And what I ended up doing was taking all of my material, as you can see right here, and I just kind of lumped it into two main courses. So the classroom just had two things. And I saw a ton of success. People were actually completing the modules. People were actually staying longer, and people weren't churning out because they were overwhelmed anymore. And that was a huge, it may seem obvious, but for me, I was like, wow, I didn't realize that less is more, you know?
Yeah, no, the customer journey is freaking essential. We've had to like fully remap that and accelerate after all the successes we've had. We've had to rethink like how can we make this even clearer and easier for people to move through. And more content doesn't equal more value. It often will mean less value if you're not careful with how you do it.
The whole message, honestly, is kind of this message of less is more. But this next thing I wanted to talk about is overwhelm. It's the number one churn driver. And like you said, the customer journey. I think about this even with YouTube too. Trying to find that balance of how many videos to make, trying to find that balance of how much content to have in an offer. And when you think about like people have full-time jobs, they have activities, they have hobbies. They may only be spending an hour a day in your community, if that. And so if you can make your new content be consumable within an hour a day, that helps people feel like they're actually a part of something and that they don't have to commit a ton of time to stay, part of that community, part of that family.
Yeah.
So that was huge for me too. And then another big takeaway on the same sort of like theme is less is more. I was doing 5 live calls a week.
This cracked me up, man. I could not believe you were running that many calls, man. That's crazy.
I remember when the first time we chatted and I told you I was doing 5 live calls a week and editing all my videos, and you were like, what are you doing, man? But cut that down to 1, and I saw so many benefits. Like more people were attending, the community was engaging more in the threads. I was able to put more time in the threads, and just overall a much better experience for the entire community and myself.
Yeah, 100%. You can show up on that Monday and absolutely smash it. You can like really maybe extend that out to being a bit longer. But that's where the whole community can come together, because you wouldn't really have the whole community coming together if it's all spaced out, right? So it must be a lot nicer to get everyone together.
100%. It is. It feels good. It feels good to have made that switch. Yeah. And then another big realization is just that you can't make everyone happy. No matter what, you have an offer, you should have a target avatar, and you can't really apply to tons of different big, broad groups. It just won't work. So being able to, block out the noise, kind of have tunnel vision on your target avatar, your ICP, and make decisions based on what they would want, and make decisions based on what would keep them around longer.
On Skool, is it easy for you? I haven't run a paid Skool before, so I don't really know what the like conversion data is on the back. But if you wanted to export the list of like subscribers, and you could sort of sort by who are the longest subscribers, and then decide, okay, these are obviously our highest lifetime value customers. Maybe we need to have a couple chats or interviews with them, figure out what their use case is, why are they spending so long on it? Is that sort of what you mean by data-driven decisions, or how have you approached that from a data standpoint?
Yeah, just getting feedback really. And pretty much exactly like you said, taking the members, seeing who's on annual, seeing who's on monthly, seeing how long people have been in there, and getting feedback and segmenting it into different groups about, what is your least favorite feature? What do you want to see? Are you still going to be in the community in 6 months? And making decisions based on the people that have the highest customer lifetime value. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the noise is tough, and some people are unfortunately just kind of complainers by nature. And those are the squeaky wheels that, despite like 99% of people being very, very happy, it's the squeaky wheels who kind of come, and you need to be on. I guess it's hard for you with a Skool community, but for the accelerator, we can be very careful about who we let in, because there are these squeaky wheels, and it's just like they if they squeak often. And that often can really skew the inputs you have as the community owner to doing things that are maybe like fixing this and this, that just this like one person who's quite noisy wants fixed. So I couldn't agree more on the signal versus noise thing.
Yeah. And that's why I think the mindset content is so important, because it'll be, 99 positive reviews, but one negative one is the one that will stick with you,
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So then I've got, looks like two final takeaways here. Data is king. And, we kind of alluded to it with that past slide, but every decision that you should be making really is just a math problem. And it should be, sometimes you have to do an experiment, but you want to collect that data. And at the end of the day, everything's a win if you get more data. Better decisions. That's all I'll say there. That's the same mindset I have with all my automations too.
And when it comes to content as well, it's I mean, this is for your community content, but also broadly YouTube content as well. We've just done a recent survey of my audience, and if you can figure out ways to sort of systemize or standardize how you can run these, okay, like what are our tools, what are our levers? Okay, I could put up an Instagram story, I could put up put out an email, I could put a poll up in Skool. Like, there's all these different levers that you can pull, and having a clear way, making it reducing the friction, I find, is good to pushing out some of these polls or surveys. Like, okay, I want to collect data on this particular thing, bang, 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 it's all gone, and I've got the data in. And if there's too much inertia, you are making it harder for yourself to get that kind of information, and that's ultimately what's going to lead to better business decisions. So that's a little tips and tricks from me there. If you can make it very easy to collect for yourself to initiate a data collection, you're going to do it a lot more often.
Yeah, love that one. And then the last one is just another mindset about blocking out the noise, is just to do more and do better of what's already working. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do a new initiative every week, because in AI, there is a new initiative you could pursue every week. Yep. Just do what's working. And that's how you'll get really good at your thing.
Now, have you followed my advice and got the operators doing their job, or are you still getting in the mix?
I have. Yeah. We've built some good systems now. Things are a lot better off, but I think, as I'll kind of talk about here, is I think it's really important to just go through those growing pains. And the quickest way is just to learn by doing and throw yourself in the fire. And, there's a fine line there of like not destroying your personal brand or anything, but experience is just worth so much more. So the first point I have here is, at least in my opinion, I started off kind of as just a freelancer. So I would, do all of the roles of an agency myself. And I think that it's essential to maybe at least do one project like this, because it gives you firsthand understanding of each role and the actual full system of beginning to end. And I think that's really, really important to see and to know before you get into it. That's
definitely like the best case scenario. I think particularly for younger people like us who have lots of time, it's like if you're a uni student or you've just come out of high school or something, then learn the skills. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't, like, if you're starting your career in the space, learn the skills, become technical in the same way that you have and I have. And from there, you can actually start to do, it makes starting the agency so much easier, because it's that freelancer to agency path, right? You can wear the hats, you can deliver a few things yourself, and then you can start to pass those off. But other people coming in who are typically a little bit older, they maybe aren't as tech savvy or digitally native, they have a much more difficult route in a lot of the time. It's like just getting the bare minimum of understanding of the tools, but then getting someone else to do it. But 100%, I think if you can go through and do the first deliveries yourself, it's way better.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that kind of just shows like the difference potentially in our kind of like our ICPs or the lanes that we've kind of chose to go down. But yeah, that's a really good point, because there is obviously a huge opportunity for people to spin up agencies in that way as well. So
is that just kind of some of your first sales calls?
Yeah, some of my first discovery calls, just
just
hopping on.
Young. That's not even that long ago. Why do you look so little? So you're just lacking the confidence.
I guess so. Lots can change in 8 months.
Yeah, it sure can.
8 months to a year. So
especially,
yeah. But anyways, yeah, just like looking at the actual project life cycle and me being able to understand. I think the biggest thing for me that I really, really enjoyed was not coming from a sales background at all. And all of a sudden I'm hopping on calls with people I've never met and trying to help them figure out what to do with their business as far as AI goes. And this was really, really eye-opening for me, because it gave me a really good pulse on the market. It helped me understand what people were looking for. It helped me understand, how can I communicate value and not turn them off? There was a lot of learnings just by talking to people. And I think that's a pretty common thing.
Yeah, there's a fine line between getting too technical on the call and not enough, right? There's a sweet spot where you can explain roughly what's gonna happen. At the end of the day, they just want the result, but there is on agency sales calls a little bit of sprinkling in that it should almost pull them into an area where they feel a little bit out of depth. They're like, oh, okay, well, like these guys know more than we do. But if you just talk surface level the whole time or too technical, you have to do a little mix of both. I've found with our Morningside calls. And with the agency, what's the scope? Like at Morningside, we're doing very general custom dev for big brands and big companies. Are you working more in the sort of lower ticket automation builds? I assume because your audience is so heavily N8N focused, are you doing mainly N8N builds for your clients at the agency? Or have you got like full stack engineers in there as well?
Yeah, we are doing mainly end to end. We have full stack guys that can kind of branch out to whatever, but because they come through the channel, they usually do. They're pretty bought into wanting an end to end build.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've definitely been moving up market just naturally as the channel has grown.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep saying that's the way. Get in. The AI automation agency is meant to be the on-ramp for people. Like it's literally like yourself, to be able to ease into it and sort of start making money by selling the lower code and no code things. Then if you choose to go up, like it's essentially a very flexible lifestyle business. If you want it to be, you can keep it. You can try to niche down to a specific set of systems that you can kind of repeatedly sell, or you can push up market and go a bit more general dev and add in full stack developers and stuff like that. So that's why I love the flexibility of it. It gives you so many routes. You can go SaaS, you can go education, you can go anything from just that starting point.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's like, it becomes very clear what your next step should be. As long as you can block out the majority of the noise, but it becomes very clear, like here where you're at, go here. Yeah.
It's just going through that gnarly period of like the first six months or so with the agency of actually learning to know how AI can help businesses. And I can't stress that enough from my end, and I'm sure you agree. There's just that's what most people aren't willing to go through. And if you can just push through that, you can get the technical foundation for yourself through building these things or doing them through your agency. And once you have that base, you can shoot from anywhere. That's when SaaS becomes possible, because you've got a technical base. You've got a bit of cash flow. You can shoot to education because you have some actual information that might be valuable to other people or businesses or consumers. Or you can shoot to anything really from there. You can go into consulting as well. So there's so much, but it's that first 6 to 12 months of actually doing the hard stuff of development for businesses. And I can't tell anyone where to get how does AI help business knowledge apart from doing it. Like I could give you a book, I could give you some course material, but you're still not going to really know on a deep level.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. And the amount of times in the first 6 months that we had massive failures, it's embarrassing, but it's also like, that's what you got to go through. So those first like 5-10 projects, there's going to be, I think now the technology is a lot better, but when we were starting, it was very, very difficult to deliver anywhere near the expectations that ChatGPT set. Thankfully now the tools are so much better for development agencies. But yeah, and you do have some dud projects. You 100% do, and you got to get the money back. That is just how it goes. Yeah. But luckily we got to a place where we finally found a system that worked. And then we could basically just bring on more people, teach them our exact system, and just kind of scale from there. And now we're at a really good place where we do have like these different business units and these different pods of people that take on different types of work. And it's really cool to be moving into the space where people are no longer coming to us with, hey, we have this idea, can you build it? But now it's more like, hey, you guys are the experts, help us. Tell basically us like, and all our departments just help us out. And that's a really cool place to be.
Yeah, that's that consulting stuff that we've been seeing as well and moving heavily into at Morningside. Like that is where, if you can do that first 6-12 months, that's what opens up to you. You have enough knowledge and context where you can go, okay, I'm not just going for the 5%, 10% of the market who's ready for development. I can start going up market, well, not necessarily up market, but to the broader market of companies who are still on square one but need a guide to take them through. So I think that's really the big opportunity people need to be gunning for with their AI careers over the next 12 to 24 months.
100%. I mean, when you think about these big firms like, Boston Consulting, KPMG, McKinsey, like they're charging
50-person business.
Yeah. Not at all. They're going to charge $1 million for that. So there's just a huge opportunity, like you said. Yeah.
Untapped, man. That's seriously untapped. I don't know how to scream it loud enough, but like I think people want to jump to the consulting thing before they've done the hard work, like we've had to go through, but it's a fairly linear process where you go through that hard 6-12 months, and that gives you the knowledge that you can start to tap into that market.
Yeah. It'll just teach you these little things. Like this may seem obvious, but to me it wasn't. And having to be super, super upfront from day one about expectations in a couple ways. The first one I think is, don't oversell a solution. If anything, under promise and over deliver. But I mean, people will be unrealistic. Sometimes you have people that think AI is magic, and you have people on the other end of the spectrum, but you got to find that middle ground.
And often the people coming to your agency are the ones who think it's magic and think it's this magic wand that can fix their business. So yeah, I totally agree on that.
Yeah. And it's tough. So pretty much you don't want to really sign off until you think the client's a good fit. And one way that we do that is we ask them about, like, kind of right away, we ask them about, where do you think AI is going to go? And just kind of try to get a pulse check on how bullish they are about it and how realistic they are about it. And that really, really helps both of us just set off on the right foot.
100%.
And that kind of leads into this next piece is about, depending on where you are in your journey, there's a lot of times when you want to prioritize experience over revenue. And that's something that I did early on, of course, too. And, I'm sure you've heard different ways of like, doing your first client for free and getting a testimonial, getting a case study. But that also leads into, just because a client is willing to hand you over like $20,000, that doesn't always mean it's a deal you should take. It might just end up being a huge headache, and it might end up screwing you in the long run. So really trying to get good experience and as much experience as you can. The money will be there down the line. We're all early enough that the money will be there, but just something to think about, I'd say.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I always say that your value or the price that you should be charging is your experience and your skills sort of combined, right? So what are your skills? You might have really good skills from watching like our videos, but if you don't have any experience and you're still kind of like experience times like 0 experience time 100 skills is still a 0, right? So you should still be going in and saying, look, I want to work for free, and I want to be able to get this experience and working with real businesses. But yeah, I see it time and time again where people get, maybe for their first client or first few that they've worked with, this big one comes in, it's like a $20,000 or $50,000 project, and they're like, holy man, I've made it here. And they work on this proposal and contract and go back and forth. And for like 2-3 months, it just absorbs all of their brain power and all of their bandwidth. And then it falls through. And they're sitting there 3 months later without any experience or skills built. You're much better to try get these as much like the highest velocity of experience you can. And oftentimes that's going to mean taking a lot less than you think you're worth, but that's going to allow you ultimately to get to positions like myself and you. So it's a really great message for the guys.
Yeah, well said. I liked that 0 times 100 thing. That was slick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've had to do course material. I had to like really refine how I like structure these things. So yeah. Anyway, that's we're running along on time. So Nate, mate, that's been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being a great example of what you can do in the space, man. Seriously, and for coming through. That's what my YouTube channel is all kind of been about, is being able to like shake people awake and say like, there is this thing right here. You don't need, it's for everyone. You don't need a degree. You don't need nothing. You can come in, and if you're willing to work hard, the opportunity is there, and you will make a lot of money. So pleasure to have you on, mate. Great to have you in the space and doing the awesome things you are. And if you guys want to get in touch with Nate, we'll see his businesses, they'll be linked down below. But yeah, anything else, Nate?
I mean, I just want to say thanks for having me. And of course, you did exactly that. You shook me, you woke me up to this opportunity, and then I hopped into your accelerator, and that was the push I needed. That was the jump off the cliff for me. So thank you for everything that you do in the space. No
worries, brother. That's all part of it. Wouldn't want to do anything else. Right. I'll see you guys on another one of these. Peace. So there it is, Nate's complete blueprint from $0 to $300,000 per month with AI automation. And the key takeaway is that you don't need to be a coding wizard. You don't need to have a ton of AI or coding experience. You just need to understand the fundamentals, put in the work, and build the right systems to support you. So don't just sit here and watch other people talk about their AI success stories. You can click on the first thing in the description to start your own.